Hi, welcome back to Garden of the Moors. Today we're in Brandon's grandparents' garden to plant some vegetables the old school way. This doesn't need any bought compost or anything from outside, just uses what we've got in the garden. And yeah, let's get digging. Right, the first thing we've got to do is scrape off the top layer of soil, mainly to get the weeds. And we're going to put them in the wheelbarrow and save them for later. Because it's these that we're going to put in our trench we dig. And then those weeds will feed the soil as they break down, which will then go into the vegetables we're growing. Any big ones, any perennial weeds, need to be properly dug out to get the taproot out. So that's your dandelions and docks. Like there's one there. So we'll dig down and leave it out. Didn't get the root, but it's only a little one. Where I had leeks in this row, it hasn't grown many weeds in the meantime, but there's a lesser celandine there. We've got plenty of them, so that one can go. And there's a real big dandelion back here, which we've got to try and get rid of. Hopefully we got most of its root. No, God, it's really deep, but keep doing that and it will go. We'll soon run out of energy. Right, now that's the weeds gone, we'll put them out of the way for the minute and come back to them later. Next up is the hard part, which is turning the ground, which means that we will have to dig it later in a minute. Now, like I said, this is Brandon's grandparents' garden. His granddad is, what am I saying, he's in his 90s and has been gardening like this since he was a little boy. And before that, his granddad was here gardening it, doing exactly the same. So this method might not be popular now because it's quite labour intensive, but it's worked for this long. It's the old school way of doing it. And what it means is we're just reusing the weeds that have grown up, any others from the rest of the garden. We'll also add in some manure. And that's what's going to feed the soil. Just need to make a really shallow trench, nothing too deep. I'm going to be planting onions in here, in this first row. And we always do it this time of year, the second half of March into April, and I always do it early in the morning because this gets very hot very quick, so you've got to work with the weather and not fight it. So we've just taken up the first barrow away because it's filled up, because I don't want to use that ground just yet. I'm going to be actually using this soil in the final row, whenever that will be. That little weed's fine because I'm going to be putting all the weeds back in this trench anyways. Right, so that's our first trench dug. Next on the list is we need to put the weeds from this row into the trench. And it's these that are going to feed the soil. There aren't too many up here, but I've got some other weeds from elsewhere in the garden that we'll use. Because this has been going on for so long, there isn't very many weeds. It's generally just your annuals that get, fly in. Right, what I'll do is get some weeds from the flower bed that I found earlier and put them in now. It's mainly just moss. This is all stuff from where the flowers are growing. Full of worms and bugs and things, which all help break it all down. And then it's time to turn over the next layer and put it on top of these weeds. This is just our way of doing it, but this has been going on, this sort of practice has been going on for a long time. This is basically what we're doing, is exactly what your old horse and plough would do. After winter, turn the ground onto the row before and bury the weeds with it, and then sow on that fresh stuff. So effectively acting like a bit like an ox with a plough. And that then, like I said, keeps your weeds down, because the more you do it, the fewer come back. And it saves you so much money, because you haven't got to buy any compost. And it gets rid of your waste. So this is what we used to do before no dig. I think the name for this is double digging, but I could be wrong. All I know is that this is the way Bran's granddad does it. Because we can hopefully do a little flashback to when this ground was full of vegetables a couple of summers ago. And that's what you got to think about when you're digging it all over. There's all those gorgeous vegetables growing and eating them fresh for your Sunday lunch or whatever. We've got really kind neighbours, and they've offered us a rotavator before to do this. But the trouble is, I don't think you'd get the precision with a rotavator, because we're trying to keep the weeds really and use them. Now that's ready. Just got to do like I had before and make a shallow trench, but put the compost, or the soil rather, on top of the weeds and bury them. They've got no light, and because I've only left the annuals in and the mosses, they won't grow back. Oh, there's a lovely juicy one, I don't want to kill that. Nice big juicy worm. He's got an important job to do, so he can go back in. Don't want to hurt him or her. I don't know how you tell the difference in worms. Now you see, I've already got my guide wire in place, because it's about now that you can very easily lose where your line is. And then Bran's granddad is very specific with his lines, rightly so, because he uses a rake, like a hoe, and rakes off any weeds in a similar sort of way you use a hoe, but he's got a nice rake that he's made, or a friend of his made for him. And so it needs to be wide enough so that he can use that tool to keep on top of the weeds but not hurt the vegetables. Now is a very important job as far as Dennis is concerned, and that's levelling it off and making it look the part. Get rid of that, which he is far better at than I am. But I blame his years of experience and my lack thereof. Right, we've got our white onions that I'm going to plant. So all you need to do is get these little sets, which are mini onions, put them root down, which is that bit, and stalk up, and then just pop them in and follow the line. So there's one in there, and then I find that my hand is about the right length. Then I just do this for the rest of the row and do that same process for the rest of the vegetables. Really, it's all in the same way, except the potatoes go under the ground when we put our weeds in. Behind us are some lovely moors, and I think we're going to have a little explore of those in a minute. So yeah, we'll take a look at these while I carry on with this. Right, that's the onions in. We've got 2 rows of them in. Next on the hit list are the Maris Piper potatoes. So earlier video you might have seen me chitting these, which is where you just let them in the sun to grow a little sprouts like that. So they'll go up in the ground like that. And what I'll do is put these in the bottom with the weeds, and that will then feed them as they're breaking down. They're already quite broken down anyways. A lot of this I dug out about a month or so ago. Now potatoes want to be 60 centimetres from the last row. This is 32 centimetres. So it's going to be 2 of these. So I've got 1, 2, which is actually basically the end of this row, this side of the trench. Pop the potato in the ground. And then they want to be 30 centimetres apart. A nice big one. I'll probably cut that one in half really, but it's only got the one set of chits. Set them down there. Simple as that. If we had any manure, this is when you'd put it in. Put it in around these, because they're very hungry vegetables. And there we go. Just got to dig them in now. There we are. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe for more. And we'll see you again next time. Bye for now.